We're at City Hall again, as promised. It's about a minute after. We're going into this consent decree meeting. We're going to see what kind of bullshit they're peddling today. Hopefully not. I always keep that small sliver of hope that we're not getting any bullshit, but yeah, never know. I'm with KDot. It's MLH. There's KDot. Looking fly today, except for that Eagles hat I keep telling them about. I can correct that. I'll buy you a Bronco hat, bro.
No, I might throw it in the garbage.
Yeah, throw it in the garbage, bro. It don't matter. It's got power. Look, what's going on? Are we closed? Okay. Well, we're gonna go around, I guess. Do we want to? Let's just drive over there, bro.
6 o'clock.
It's 6 o'clock. What's going on? All persons entering council chambers will also be subject to search of their person. So you give away your rights when you get in here, apparently. What is going on? Should we go around and try the back side?
I guess so. I guess that's not enough.
All right, and Bernie B's here too. Say hi, Bernie.
Hi, Bernie.
You're stupid. Ellie, welcome. John, welcome. Who else? King Solomon. Right on. Sorry, guys. Look at Bernie's tattoo. Hold on. Part of her tattoo. It's pretty cool. She's shaking. I don't know what she was shaking her leg
I was
for.
modeling.
She's modeling her tattoo. Okay, we're on our way. We've been on an all-day quest to do stuff today. There's the gray. That's the gray of that Toyota that I want. Huh?
That's the news.
Well, yeah, but where do we go? So
That's the news.
that's the fake news. Fake news is here. Oh wait, are they? I'm gonna take a second here. Let me take a second. I want to see if the fake news gets in. What's up, George Daly? Nice to have you in here. They're gonna find that those doors are closed. I think we should just go. Hold on. If you're just joining us, we're supposedly going to this consent decree meeting, which is going to tell us a lot about the progress that's being made or not being made by the Aurora PD. Yeah, let's go around, bro. They're not going to find anything there. So the purpose of us being here is to follow up on a lot of promises that we made to you guys, and also to make sure that no bullshit goes on as well. I mean, I was not happy with the original consent decree meeting that we were part of. Oh, look, they opened it for those jerk offs. What the?
That's good. We'll go to those.
Yeah, we're going to the other side. Man, screw this fucking noise, man. Fucking A. So we're here to get maybe some answers on the progress of the never-ending BS that is the Aurora Police Department, and if they're making any changes. I think KDot and I have actually made more changes than the consent decree has made, to be honest with y'all. I mean, if we're really being honest, you know. Yeah, we're just gonna park here, and that's fine. Okay, let's find out if we can get into this consent decree meeting. All right, can you open the door for me, Bernie? Thank you. If I missed you in chat, sorry. I'll get to you guys in just a second, but we're trying to figure out how to get in the building to get into this meeting, which this is another issue, actually, is access to these consent decree meetings. Sometimes they have them in City Hall. Sometimes they have them off-site in different places. Also, you guys are going to be able to see the aggressive geese up here that decided to take nest in this I don't even know what you call it, but I thought it was going to attack KDot earlier, or as somebody called him, K-Dog. What's up, K-Dog? Oh, okay. Come on, Bernie, we're late. Hilarious. So there's the goose. Mick T, what's up? Ms. Libby, what's up? So there you go. Look at this, guys. Nesting and aggressive geese.
She got what was in there?
What?
She got eggs in there.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Ah, there we go.
Hi.
Hey, how you
Hey
doing?
guys, see you guys.
Good to see you too. All right. All right, so we're finally inside the building.
Okay, good. Bill.
How you doing? She's supposed to flip it.
There we go. Oh my god. All right, Omar, get in here.
I gotta know your connection to the East Coast before I validate the Philly hat.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much. Thank you. You just have to ask him.
I've been out there watching her. I'm actually on my channel.
Okay.
Watch. Their interaction with the public and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah, so I make sure that I hold the account like that.
Serious. Wow. I'm Phil. Your name again is KDot. KDot. You know this guy?
Yeah, we'll make the connection.
All right. He's a good man. Which room are we in, by the way?
We're in that room right
That's
there.
Phil.
Give me about 2
That's the
seconds.
one who
I
created
want
the
to talk to
consent.
KD.
Okay, awesome. That's good.
You good? I'll,
All right.
yeah.
Excuse me. I'm gonna grab a water here.
You have to eat it out there.
I don't think I need to eat anything, but
I don't think I need to eat anything either, bro, but I definitely need this.
water if you can, bro.
Say hi. Hi.
Water. Are we going in there? Is that where we're going?
It's good to see you. Have you seen them?
You guys go ahead. I gotta use the restroom.
Okay. Well, we're gonna head on in. I'll talk to you guys when we get in here. Oh, please be quiet. Meeting in progress, y'all. All right. Thank you. Go ahead. All right. There's Jeff. I'm actually going to. I'm actually going to wait here. You can come over here if you want, sweetheart. And we're actually going to move up, but can you hold this for a second? I'm going to talk to you guys here in just a second.
Yeah.
Bernie's got to hold you guys.
Uh-oh. Now they're in trouble.
Okay. All right, so welcome, Jen. What's up, Jesse? Hola, hola. Little Rich Farm, welcome. If everybody could hit that thumbs up button for me, that'd be awesome. Really appreciate that.
You guys want any question cards?
Sure, I'll take questions.
Have any questions?
Thank you.
Just put them down there.
Appreciate it.
When
Thank
they'll
you.
answer them, they'll put them online.
Okay.
The answers, okay? You need a pen or anything?
I have one.
She's got one. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You need something, let me know.
Okay.
I'm Bill.
Nice to
thank you.
meet
Nice to meet you.
Bridget.
So we're inside. So basically, let me give you guys a quick rundown of why we're here. This meeting was supposed to start at 6. I knew it wouldn't start right at 6, but go ahead, sweetheart. If you go outside and then that way, you'll catch it. So out and then take a left. Okay. All right. What we're doing here is we're seeing the progress of this consent decree. This is, I believe this is the 4th meeting. If you see that gentleman on the right, talking. That is Jeff. He is the director of Integrisure, or the CEO, whatever you want to call him. And he's the independent monitor. This is the guy that we talk to from time to time. If we have a problem or if we need to look at body cam footage, or we point him to certain body cam footage, he'll give us a heads up on what is going on, or if there was anything foul, or anything of that nature. But basically, for those who don't know what a consent decree is this basically what's going on is the city of Aurora has taken the stance that this particular police department needs a lot of improvement in a lot of areas, and I'll give you guys a rundown on that once I get the survey results. It's going to be really interesting in a lot of aspects. It's too much to go over with you guys right now. When KDot gets here, I'll talk a little more about it. But basically, the highlights are, are there improvements in use of force, community interactions, things of that nature, things that would. Whoa, you scared the shit out of me, bro.
Got you back.
You got me back for earlier. You got me back. I don't know where you want to sit, KDot. Where do you want to sit, bro? I mean,
We can sit up a little closer.
all right. Wait.
My hearing.
Okay, go ahead and find a place for us, bro. I'm gonna wait for Bernie because she's got her stuff over here. So there's a lot of, there's supposed to be a lot of good that comes out of these consent decree meetings, and a lot of, a lot of the questions that the public has should be answered by the end of this consent decree, which apparently is going to take 4 or 5 years. I can't remember what Jeff said, but there's a lot of improvement to be made. There's a lot of there's a lot that KDOT and I are very unhappy with. We understand that the consent decree is supposed to change things within the police department, but from other consent decrees, like the one that happened in Chicago, the one that happened in, I believe, New York, Los Angeles, it's all fucking lip service, isn't it? It's to pacify the public, to kind of, just give a nod and a wink. Here's Jeff right now. Hey Jeff, how you doing, man? Nice to see you.
How are
again.
you? Good to
I'm
see
good,
you.
I'm good. Nice
All
to see
good?
you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
gonna film from
just
back
hanging
here?
out. No, I'm gonna move up forward. I just came in. I didn't know where we wanted to sit, so we're gonna
Yeah.
be.
How are you? Good to see you.
But this man is trying to do some good work here, Jeff.
Which one?
Just say hi to everybody.
Oh, hi.
Talking about you, man. We're hoping for some good results. Did you make any progress on the latest survey, or
Which survey?
this latest one? You have the latest.
The
one.
internal survey you're talking about?
The one that shows like if you're in the green, red. The one that I cried about at the beginning, with all the greens and
Oh, yeah, not the survey, the monitoring.
the monitor.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, no,
Sorry.
the department is, listen, on the right track, but you'll hear me say, as I've said
There's
to you
supposed
guys,
to be
it's a
improvement.
marathon.
It is.
Yeah.
It's
And we understand, and we also had a conversation with HR.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, we
about
did.
The redaction.
Check.
Oh, what-
Testing 1, 2.
How'd it go?
One of them did. It was the director.
Good. Clean. All right.
I
Who's
told him,
that, Ryan?
yeah, Ryan.
Is it Ryan? Right, there we go. I told him I was like, that doesn't look very transparent.
Here.
And
A little bit.
I get the personal
Okay.
relationship between the officer and the supervisor.
Test. Testing 1, 2.
Unfortunately,
But you are getting a good level.
So, we never talked about it, but I did ask them, and what they said was they made a mistake in giving you what they gave you on the other ones.
Yeah,
Right?
and I said, no, that wasn't a mistake at all. Because I want to know why this officer is exceptional. Why he's just exceptional and then nothing else.
I love your commendations are extremely. It's
So the other officers know that
fair, right?
I didn't tell you this, but city council, I did announce them at the podium.
You should, do you know KDOT?
Who's done this for you so long? Good to see you. Thank you for being here. We do. We say it every time we see each other.
I'm not
I know you are.
and this man here.
MLH.
I don't think I've had the pleasure of meeting you. Thank
No,
you. Nice to meet you.
meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I guess I like how you have a camera.
I do. I do. I
That
learned
camera
my
is
lesson.
pretty worn.
It is.
It's getting some use.
Yeah, he clowns my Android, his team Android all day. The iPhone.
You know, this is coming from a man
you
with
got
the
an iPhone
Philadelphia
too, right?
Eagles hat on his head right now.
So yeah, I did get, like I said, I got with HR. They do agree that we probably do need to partner.
Good. And talk about some more.
Yeah, as a getting personnel records and then having them.
I'm gonna let you guys.
Yeah. I'm sorry for grabbing.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Could be,
Yeah. We should talk about it.
I don't know that is fair for the officers. If I'm trying to, okay, this officer awesome. This is the reason why, and this look what they said about it.
Yeah.
I can't say anything.
Yeah.
My audience is not going to care. They're going to be like, okay.
I want to try to get some access to videos as well, body on camera videos. You can only see so much, you guys, when you're out there, right? And there's other stuff that's going on that's good and some not so good.
That's another
How do
issue.
we deal with that?
That's another issue, Jeff. When I put in for body-worn camera footage, I get it like it's not only redacted; it's just completely left out. Sometimes, in the case, there was one time when KDot and I were out and about, and we were cop watching, and we were upset at the fact that they kept shining their lights in our cameras and obstructing the view.
Across from Hobby Lobby.
But yeah, across from Hobby Lobby, or right in front of Hobby Lobby.
Don't think I don't
actually.
pay attention.
No, I know you do. but the problem lied in I specifically, and I was very specific. I asked for the sergeant's body-worn cam footage from the time he was at the station to the time he got the call, and the only thing I got was him filing a little bit of paperwork either before or after.
What are the rules on that?
Well, you're supposed to get. I mean, unless there's personal
There's a time
information.
period, right?
So they asked us to be a little bit specific. So I made an example. I said, okay, so this is what we'll do. We'll ask the personnel file in the 3 categories: disciplinary, accommodations, and what was the last one? Oh, and pay.
Yeah, pay.
And I think that's clear.
Yeah.
It's very, very clear.
Yeah.
Okay, I said, all right, that's fair. Instead of you just grabbing a whole group of stuff.
Good.
I don't need to see their social security. I don't need to see
good.
their birth
Right.
certificate.
Right.
Not important.
Right.
I don't even really need to see their address.
Right.
But
Better that you don't see.
right.
Well, no, somebody made a point earlier as far as addresses are concerned. They're like, why shouldn't we know that we have police officers living among us or not living among us?
Well, whether or not they're
You know.
residents of the city.
Right.
But
You see what I'm saying? I mean, it's
the address
that's a small
itself
point,
is-
but it's
It's
like,
something that can go south pretty quickly.
why? I mean, everybody's
Somebody-
exceptional here.
No, not everybody is exceptional, and
every-
not everybody thinks everybody is exceptional.
Well, okay, I understand that, but according to every record that I've obtained,
exceptional.
everybody's exceptional. So I mean, you know what I'm saying, Jeff? I mean, all right, get some coffee, man. I think you need some, man. You look like you're
I
sleeping.
look like I am.
No, I'll keep you up.
All right, let's. Okay, let's talk about this over here, bro. I don't know where you want to sit, Kate. I don't know your hearing. He's got old man hearing, man. You want to come down here, sweetheart, or yeah.
What would you like to ask me now, Mr. MLH?
What would I ask you? Do I?
What would you like to ask?
I just want to see that survey, or they call it something different. It's the
I want to know, is the auditor here?
the city auditor.
Yeah.
Why?
Why not?
Well, who's supposed to be here? The chief?
Yes, the chief is on his way, but
Okay.
I'd like to have the war. I think the war police officer or something like that
Okay.
be here because I want to know they're the ones who do the body one cameras, all those type of things. I would like to, those are the questions that we need answers from, or answers that we need. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't look. I didn't come into this particular meeting having any specific questions per se. But sorry, I'm talking like I know I'm talking to you, but I'm talking in here, KDot. So,
I'm probably out.
yeah, and so am I. But I need answers from the first time we were in here. I mean, goddamn, I need to shave, don't I?
I told you.
I know you did. Sorry, Birdie. So everybody thinks I look like PLA, bro. Everybody thinks I look like PLA. What is up with that, man? Like, I'm much more handsome. Get out of here, Bernie. What are you doing? Yeah, I don't know about young, man. Look at my beard, bro. It's starting to come through big time. I haven't dyed my beard in a while. We need to go and get that. KDot's trying to humor me, man.
How we doing tonight?
We're good,
How you
man.
been, man? Yeah. You good? Yeah. Everything good? It's been a minute.
It's been a while.
Yeah. I hear you though. How you been?
Good. Nice
Good to
to
see you.
see you, man.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Excited about, as far as what's going on.
A little bit of movement. We are too. We are too. I think it's an opportunity to get some clarity and
Bring your own bleach.
is the
How
trajectory.
dare you not?
Just from my end too, as a CAC
dare you.
member. Just because it needed to.
These people are
Right? Remember last time we talked? Yeah, it was a little different. It was a little different.
But,
And
Oaks is not here anymore.
yeah,
So,
there you
bye-bye,
go.
Oaks.
We can have a conversation.
I actually should belong.
How dare you keep it?
Yeah.
Great guy.
He's invited you in and had a conversation. Or? Yeah. Good.
We're all serious here. We're all supposed to be serious. Super serious. This super serious.
I think last time we were there and I told you this that night. I think that's why you were asking. Just hear me. Just hear me.
For any of
You
your
know,
fun.
and don't patronize me.
There's a lot going on here, guys. Give me a second. Get out of here.
No, I know.
Give them some tissues.
There were a lot of things happening and I didn't feel good, bro. There wasn't a whole lot of
You
humanity.
guys cracked me up, man. Give
I
them
hear
some
you. I
tissues.
hear you. Good to see you, man. Let me know if there's anything you need.
Supposedly,
All right, I'll get you a card. before I leave.
supposedly the chief is on his way.
Do you have a...
The chief we have a pretty good rapport with. It's actually a big meeting, yeah. This is a big deal. It's not a small thing. I don't want to trivialize it or minimize what's going on here, but we did. Thank you. Yeah. They have a really dumb system of asking questions here. And the reason that they're doing it this way is because the first consent decree meeting that KDot and I went to, we started asking questions that they didn't have the answers for. So now the way that they do questions is they ask you to write those questions on a piece of paper and they will answer them on the website. No matter how many questions they get, they will answer them, they say. But I have way too many questions. I have way too many
Just touch
questions.
it and that's my contact.
Yeah, one big heart. Coronavirus is still around, but I mean,
I'll get you a
Biden
hard-
said it was
a hard,
over, so it's miraculously over. It doesn't exist anymore, right?
I'll get you.
So, hold on. Yeah, tell Bernie to behave. Thank you, guys. All right, so here's KDot again.
Oh, it's KDot.
Who is that one guy again at the beginning that you said who started the consent decree, KDot?
That's Phil White. He's the
Oh,
one
Phil
who...
Weiser, the Attorney General?
Yes. That's what I'm saying.
I heard Phil, but I didn't think it was Phil
Phil
Weiser.
White ordered the 14th-month investigation. And fuck this. You got on a 5-year consent decree.
You guys, if I would have known that was Phil Weiser, I had some plenty of stuff to talk to Phil Weiser about. I don't know where he's at, but Ellie, remind me of some shit that we need to talk to Phil Weiser about. Maybe the redactions and why everything's fucking redacted. This might be an opportunity tonight, guys. This might be a very, very interesting video. I know it's going to be a boring sit-down discussion, but if I can corner Phil Weiser, I'm going to corner Phil Weiser. And I'm going to ask him some fucking questions. Oh, you can drink your water in here, no doubt. You just can't eat in here. So, get ready for a wild ride. Yeah. Florida 2, Toronto 1. Boo. I want Toronto to win that. Yep, why does the government have so much to hide?
Hey guys, share this. If you guys have channels, please share this on your channel.
Yeah, for sure. If you haven't hit that like button, make sure you hit this. Look, I'll tell you right now, the meeting might not be the greatest, but afterwards is usually when KDot and I spring to action and start asking questions, talking to the chief. The last meeting we were at, if I remember correctly, the last meeting we both were at, KDot, you were threatened by Chief Oates, which I have that on the channel. Make sure you guys check that out because it's actually one of our finest moments.
Yeah.
KDot went toe to toe with a police chief.
Yeah, this old ass man threatened me.
Yeah.
Which I find fucking hilarious.
Right. KDot went off on the last one. The last consent decree meeting, you did?
I shut the whole fucking game.
You did? I didn't get a chance. It was on your channel?
Yeah, it was on yours.
It was on my channel?
On the last consent decree, yeah.
What? What are you talking about? It wasn't on my channel, brother.
It was live on your channel.
We were both there?
Right there.
That wasn't the one with Oates, was it? Or was it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
the one
yeah.
with the, the neck thing. There's Phil right there. There's Phil right there.
Oh, God. Oh, there's Phil.
Oh, there's the fucking city.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm not afraid of him either, so without that badge and gun, I think I could take him. What do you think, KDot?
You know what I realized?
What?
I finally escaped the car.
You did escape the car. You've been in the car all day, haven't you? Poor Bernie, man. Poor Bernie was in the car all day today with KDot and myself. We had to leave her in while we were taking care of business earlier at City Hall.
And now they're gonna all throw me back in the car if I don't behave.
No, we're not going to do that to Bernie. We're keeping Bernie with us for the.
So there's Phil right there.
Okay. So this is Phil Weiser, guys, coming up on the right there. He's behind this gentleman here. That guy's really tall. Jesus. That guy right there is Phil, the Attorney General. Right there in the middle of your frame, guys, is Phil Weiser. He is the Attorney General for the state of Colorado, the entire state.
Oh no.
I'm really
Mayor's here.
The mayor is here. You gotta be shitting me. This is gonna be good. Oh boy. Oh boy. This is gonna be awesome, guys. Trust me.
Now
Mayor
he might
Coughlin.
get cussed out tonight.
Oh gosh. He's a piece of absolute trash. If you guys remember, if you guys keep up with politics, that guy right there is Kaufman. Mayor Kaufman used to be a senator, I believe. Was he a senator or just a representative? That's Megan, bro. Megan Platt. We got all the heavy hitters here today. We got all the hit. That's the mayor right there, guys. This old piece of shit right there. He's an absolute piece of trash. Here's what's up, Chief? How you doing? Leslie, how are you? Yeah, pretty much, man. Pretty much, man. The chief is here. There's the chief right there. That guy's actually really cool. So far, I haven't found anything too much wrong with him. If you want to know about Chief Acevedo, do your homework and look up his. Oh, hey, nice to see you. He is he was run out of Miami. I discussed that at length with him over at when we had a meeting with him. I did my research on Chief Acevedo right there. Yeah, I agree, Keeper, but I mean, it's the chief of police, you know. But he's actually a decent guy from what I read and I understand. He came from Miami. He was ran out of there, and he was also ran out of Houston because he was getting rid of dirty cops. So that gives you the rundown. And now the meeting's going to begin.
First, I just want to say good evening to everyone that's here today, and especially those that are on Channel 8 or that are watching us online. I'd like to say welcome to the Community Advisory Council Year-End Community Update for the City of Aurora Consent Decree. We have been in the Consent Decree for a year, and now we get a chance to get an overview to find out what has been done, and also be able to engage the public on what they would like to see or some of the things that they're seeing as a result of the Consent Decree. My name is Omar Montgomery. I am one of the co-chairs of the Community Advisory Council, as well as president of the Aurora branch of the NAACP. Once again, welcome everyone. And before we get started, we'd love to share why we're here today. Elijah McClain. And when we think about Elijah McClain, it's the reason why we're sitting here today talking about how we want to improve public safety, how we want to improve accountability, and how we want to make sure our city is safe while at the same time making sure that those who abuse this power are held accountable. A lot of people don't know, I was in high school, got beat by Inglewood police, got put in a chokehold, got hit with a nightstick, and was threatened to be taken to another territory, knowing I could be murdered, all because of a police stop. I had guns pulled on me the day I was graduated from college, in front of my mother, by the police. And on the other end of the story, my niece, she's my cousin, but my niece, Ron knows about this, and my wife, was murdered 2 years ago in California. And if it wasn't for the work of some great law enforcement personnel, that person still be walking the streets today. Today, that person's on trial for murder. So there's two sides to the story. So with that, I want to welcome you. I also want to say, you know, when we get to community meetings sometimes, it gets a little passionate. And if you've been to some of our past meetings, it gets a little passionate. We have kids watching. We have families watching. We have elders. So what we ask is a few things. One, let's respect the space. Let's respect our audience. Think about the time you're taking if there's an opportunity to ask questions and things of this nature. And let's do all we can to make sure that we're learning everything about the consent decree that you can take back to your community.
Keeper, my
There'll be index cards. May I have members of the consent decree stand? Not the consent decree, of the Community Advisory Council. And those members are Pastor Reed Heddy, can you raise your name? Jeanette Rodriguez, Maurice Anderson, Melissa Berglund, Maisha Fields, Ron Garcia Ortiz, William Gordez, Becky Hogan, Gianna Horton, Dr. Thomas Mays, and Amy Wise. Can all of you raise your hand? And they have index cards. So the process is going to be, you can write your questions down, and they'll get answered, and Maisha will be moderating the panel, and we'll go with the questions from there. With that, there's another important person that's part of this consent decree, and I have the pleasure of introducing him, our Attorney General, Phil Weiser. who's been intimately involved in all the steps, and also wants to make sure that the consent decree is being followed and that it works. With that, he's going to give some opening remarks. Thank you for all the work you're doing, and thank you for the work you've done in regards to the consent decree so that the city of Aurora can have accountability while having public safety. Thank you.
Omar, thank you. Pastor Reed and others, thank you. This is an important gathering and opportunity for community members to come together to learn more about this decree, which is committed to doing what Omar said, which is how do we build confidence in our law enforcement system and how do we advance public safety? Those goals go hand in hand, and the consent decree is designed to advance that work. We're going to hear from the monitor who's been overseeing this decree. We're thrilled to have both the fire chief and the police chief here, and we appreciate the progress that's being made. We know some of it has moved less quickly than some would like. I do want us to underscore there has been progress and there's work to do. In terms of what the decree focuses on, it starts with some policies and how the police department and the fire department operate. It includes the concerns that Omar adverted to, which is our policing operating in a way that people are treated equally and civil rights are honored? Is there a commitment to using force appropriately and to addressing concerns about when excessive force might be used? And is there documentation of stops in a way that makes sure that what happened to Omar doesn't happen
Consent
to
decree
others?
meeting.
We also know that the use of ketamine has been a concern, and we've worked, and the fire department's made efforts on that as well. And then as we've had some recent news on, how is the process of hiring going to work? How is training going to work? How will there be recruitment that brings a force that represents this great city?
Talk
And
to Dennis a
finally,
little bit later about the
accountability
hiring
and transparency.
practices here.
The operations that are being focused on in the early years are going to set a foundation for work to come. And there are milestones the monitor will keep watching that will be publicly shared. The recent report is quite lengthy. How long is it?
About 100 pages, and the main part of it.
Yeah, there's some appendices too. So we've gotten a little bit of a abbreviated work here that's going to be shared with you. I do want to also acknowledge there's been some leadership changes that are part of what we are working with, including a new police chief who's with us and has really shown his commitment to this work. We have a new fire chief, and I believe we now have a acting city manager. Is that the current status? Okay. What those leaders have been committed to is how we have stakeholder engagement to emphasize that you as community members need to be heard from. We need your voices. We need your eyes and ears, and we appreciate your commitment. Let me just give you a quick couple of highlights on some of the work that's happened, some of the work to be done. There are now new policies that have been developed that govern use of force, that govern anti-bias, data collection, and constitutional policing. There is a commitment and policies that will help how we follow the law better and how we ensure that the training is effective. I want to note that this is part of larger work that we in Colorado are doing. One of my other hats is chair of the Peace Officers and Standards and Training Program called POST. And we're looking at this question about how do we do anti-bias and de-escalation or preventing escalation through programs like ICAT, which is Integrating Communication Assessments and Tactics, or ABLE, Active Bystander in Law Enforcement, and more recently one called EDNIS, Ethical Decision Making Under Stress. We're pleased that Aurora is taking these opportunities and others so seriously, and we as a state know we've got more work to do on all these efforts. We are pleased the fire department has now made a commitment not to use ketamine. They've modified their policies, and that is an important step forward that we would highlight. We also appreciate the fire department, there's now a review. So if there are chemicals that are used, the idea is to ask what happened and what do we learn from it. That sort of mindset, a learning mindset, is something that we believe is really important for law enforcement. We also recognize one of the issues is there are many people who have mental health challenges who who come into contact with our law enforcement system? Are we preparing for those interactions in a way that prevents them from escalating, that enables them to be more productive? There's a lot of work to be done on these and other areas. I mentioned also recruitment is something we know is really important. There's obviously questions about how we target and train more diverse individuals to join law enforcement. There's a lot of this work that we know is ahead. In terms of current projects, let me just note a few that are ongoing. The transparency initiatives that are really committed to, that are going to provide, I think, great benefits. A dashboard that's being worked on that's going to help the public have insight to what's happening. The commitment to ongoing community relations and conversations is critical. Implementing the policies I mentioned above, including the use of force policy. Ensuring that there's effective disciplinary policies so that when people do things that violate policies, there is accountability in that respect. And how can we make sure we're retaining as well as recruiting high-quality professionals to serve this great community? This is a lot of work. And the goal of having a monitor is to have that interactive conversation, guidance, feedback, as well as, hey, you need to keep working in this area here or that area there. In terms of where this all goes, the consent decree has a roadmap. You're going to hear more about that in a little bit. It's meant to be a structure to guide what will be a continuation of steps that are going to build confidence, steps that are going to help advance the culture, and that are going to bring more transparency, more accountability, and more public safety. All that work goes together. It's great to bring the community together, and I particularly give a shout out to the advisory members who are part of this process. This takes a team effort, and the engagement here gives me a lot of hope and confidence as to what this team can do. If I am keeping track, our monitor is going to give us some more information next. Is that right, Manisha? Or should I give it to Pastor Reed? All right. So thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Attorney General Weiser, for all of your work on this and those remarks. This is a kind of a complicated process. It was the Attorney General's office that did some investigation of the Aurora Police Department, Aurora Fire Rescue, and the city itself. It's as they were finding reasons for reform that negotiated with the city the consent decree, and together they agreed upon the basic tenets of the consent decree. And then they hired a monitor to come in and make sure we had an outside independent monitor to make sure that the consent decree was being followed. And it was a little over a year ago that IntegraSure was chosen as that monitor. And here with us tonight is Jeff Schlanger, and he's going to give us more about that. I was just looking through his bio, a couple of interesting things that you should know about him. Spent some time, it says on his bio that he was a prosecutor in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. But I'm a pretty avid viewer of Law and Order, and I've never seen you. I've never seen you there. So I'm going to do a little bit more investigation about that. But when he was working for the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, he was a persecution of John Gotti, among some other really high-profile things. A couple of other pieces. He was Deputy Primary Monitor of the Los Angeles Police Department. He has worked for and done some investigation for the Tennessee Highway Patrol, the San Francisco Police Department, and the Austin Police Department. In addition, he also was Deputy Commissioner for Risk Management of the New York Police Department. So he's been engaged in a lot of those things, is an attorney, and is an expert in his field of helping police departments get better. And so we will look to you, Jeff, to lead us a little bit through sort of this reporting period. The monitor reports quarterly so far on their progress, and we're going to be taking a look at their fourth quarterly report. And after this report, they go to a semi-annual report, so it'll be a bit less frequent. But Jeff, come and lead us through this.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I want to start with the headline, which I think is important, and that is that both APD and AFR are on the right track. You'll hear me talk a little bit later, and the Attorney General spoke, that this is really not a sprint, this is a marathon. The consent decree itself envisions a 5-year process, but as I say, at this point, APD and AFR are on the right track. It's not that we haven't had challenges along the way, but we have a new interim police chief who is committed to the process and understands that the consent decree is really, as the Attorney General said, a roadmap for that process. And that process is to bring reform to this community, to make its police department for its residents all that it can be, and to make each individual officer all that they can be as well. So I'd like to just go over how we got here. Here we go. And as has already been spoken about, in September of 2021, the Attorney General released its report on its investigation into Aurora Public Safety and indicated that it had found that there were several areas which needed attention, including bias policing, use of force, investigative encounters, use of chemical sedatives, recruitment, hiring, promotion, and last, accountability and transparency. On November 16th of 2021, the city and the Attorney General's office, the state, entered into a consent decree. And that means that both sides agreed on certain terms. And that consent decree is a document which contains certain mandates for the department, both the fire department and the police department. Go to the next slide. What is the role of the monitor? The monitor essentially has 4 roles in the context of the consent decree. Number 1, we oversee those mandates that are contained in the consent decree. Next, we provide technical assistance. And by the way, it's not just me as the monitor. We have a team of professionals. I commend anybody to go, or everybody to go to our website, look at the backgrounds of those people. Those are the people who are working for you to make sure that this consent decree gets implemented in the way that it should. So we provide technical assistance through those experts. We engage with the community, and that's how we got to have the Community Advisory Council. It was in Starbucks that Reed and I first met the week that we were here, I think, and we talked about establishing a Community Advisory Council to do exactly what we're doing here. And then lastly, we report out publicly. We report to the parties, we report to the court, and of course we report to the public. This is just the process of assessment. You have the consent decree on top. You have those rings of what our roles are. But in terms of the oversight of the mandates, we did a thing that is called disaggregation, a fancy term for just looking at the consent decree and picking out the individual mandates, writing those mandates down, and then working with the departments to come up with the protocol by which those mandates were going to be judged. And we call that the methodologies to aid in the determination of compliance. So each mandate has its own protocol of, number 1, making sure the policies and training are in place, and then operational oversight as well. And then we report out our findings, as Reed mentioned, first in a quarterly report, which has happened for the first year, and then we will be reporting every 6 months from here until the end of the monitorship. These are the areas of the consent decree. I went over them. We have policies and training, which form the foundation of everything else. Bias policing, use of force, stops and investigative encounters, use of chemical sedatives, recruitment, hiring, and promotion, and accountability and transparency. This is a very important slide and a very important concept, and I mentioned it before. This is a marathon. It is not a sprint. We are in year 1 of the marathon. We are in policy development and training development. And those are difficult things to do. And I want to thank Chris Jewell and his team for all their work on the policy development. It really has been an effort that took a village, so to speak. Input from experts, advisors that the city brought on board, the city attorney's office. Everybody gets together once a week in a 2-hour session, which we had immediately preceding this, and we talk about policies. In years 3 through 5, once the policies and the training are in place, we will be monitoring operations. We will be out there more often than we are. We're out there some now, but we will be making sure that in fact the policies and the training which have been developed and have been delivered are being followed on the streets. And this is where you come in, and I'll talk about the role of the community in a moment. This is how we communicate progress. We call it our report card. We use what are called Harvey balls: green, right track; yellow, cautionary track; red, wrong track, and different degrees of progression until you get a solid green, which means that that particular provision is in substantial compliance. In this quarterly report that we just delivered, it was published April 15th. It's on our website. I absolutely invite anybody who's interested. It's a long document, but I think it's an important document to read. But we went into certain focus issues. We talked about the renewed efforts to comply with the consent decree under the leadership of Chief Acevedo. We did a recap of the year, and I'll talk about that in a moment. We dealt with the Civil Service Commission and the issue of de novo review, which is included. We published a separate report, but it's also included in the RP4 report. We talked about a number of hiring and promotional issues which had faced the city, which made the news over the last 3 or 4 months. And we made specific recommendations with respect to things that the city could do in order to improve on those aspects that led to the problems with those particular circumstances. So we will be tracking those recommendations. We will work with the city to implement those recommendations or some variation of them. We also included in this report a sub-report from the National Policing Institute on the data work that they are going to be providing us. That will come out in October. They're going to be doing a deep dive on the data, looking especially for whether or not there are disparate findings and whether or not that disparity or those disparities which may exist indicate that there is biased policing happening in any way. And lastly, excuse me, we talked about ICAT training. The Attorney General mentioned that, and that is really important stuff. I attended training, Aaron attended training. We had a third member of the monitoring team attend training, and the training was just excellent. And it deals with de-escalation, and de-escalation especially in the realm of confronting individuals who are armed, but armed otherwise than with a firearm. Just in terms of the highlights, in terms of substantial compliance, of the 70-odd provisions that there are in our methodologies to aid in determination of compliance, 19 mandates were found to be in substantial compliance. 9 of those were AFR and revolved around the use of, or the non-use of ketamine and other chemical restraints. 2 regarded how AFR develops its policies One regarded the Civil Service Commission's timely submission of policies to the monitor, and 6 dealt with the policies on constitutional policing and bias-based policing and the completion of associated training there. And then there was 1 on AFR scenario-based training. 24 mandates were on a cautionary track. That cautionary track means that we are watching this closely. A lot of those had to do with the use of force policy and other policies which, although the best intentions were laid out in the consent decree relative to a timeline, that timeline really did prove to be unrealistic. And I'm happy to announce that those use of force policies are complete. They will be signed off on in the next few days, and training will commence and be completed during this reporting period. 4 were related to the missed deadline for bias training. There too, there will be training in July. I forget the exact date, but somewhere beginning of July? 21st. We will be attending that training, and that occurred, or the delay occurred in part through no fault of the city. The presenters had an issue. It was originally scheduled for May 3rd, I believe. I'm sorry, March 3rd. 2 were regarding the data systems, and data systems are difficult. They continue to be a concern of the monitor, and we are working with the city to make sure that the projects that are in the pipeline relative to data are completed in as timely a fashion as is possible. I talked about the year in review was a highlight, a focus issue in our report. We talked about the methodologies to aid in determination of compliance, stakeholder engagement, establishment of the CAC, a community survey that we will be repeating sometime in the next few months, 4 quarterly reports that we had issued, 3 community events, the constitutional policing and training, the bias-based policy and training, use of force policies, the force review board, which I'm happy to report has improved significantly in terms of its introspection into events that occur in which force is employed. We issued an entry-level hiring report, and of course we are always looking for issues of the moment, like those that we reported on relative to hiring and promotion. So here is my plea to you all, the community, and that is, we're in this together. The reason we have the Community Advisory Board, the reason we need the community to participate is to get feedback. It's one thing to have policies, to have training. We need to make sure that you, the residents of this great city, are feeling those reforms on the street. We need to make sure that the police officers that you come in contact with are acting in the way that we expect them, that the department expects them to act. So please, feel free to reach out to me. My door is open. I'm happy to give out my cell number. For those who are listening and have paper and pencil, it's 917-337-2300. You should feel free, as some of you already do, to call. I'm happy to discuss any aspect of the consent decree with you and try to address your concerns as best we can. We also have a website, complaints, commendations, things that are on your mind can be delivered through that website or by texting me at the number I just gave you. So really, I thank you all for everything that you have done It was because of you that this consent decree came about. The investigation, the consent decree, the monitorship, the CAC, all because of you. So with that, I'll turn it back to Reed. Maisha, I'm sorry.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thank you, Maisha.
Yes. And so with that, I'd like to just thank IntegraSure for your work and just acknowledge your team. And if we could just, if you all could just stand and wave. Jeff
I
came
care
with
what you're
an
saying,
incredible
unicorn
team
for
that
sure.
represents diversity and they've done guys working with community to do this work. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then if I could get our champions who are dealing with this every day to join us here on the dais so that we can start our question and answer period. We have our brand new fire chief, whoop, whoop, who joins us, Chief Acevedo, our interim chief for Rural Police Department. We also have Jason who's joining us, our city manager. And we have members of IntegraSure who will be joining us. And each of our members of the dais today, of our panel, will give a 3-minute introduction about why this work is important and what specifically your role was. Before we get started, I would like to say that I am sincerely grateful for this opportunity, and I just want to give a shout out to all the community advisory members. I know we mentioned them before, but this is hard work. It's hard work listening to families and mothers and fathers of individuals who are worried about their children coming home every night. And so as a Aurora native, a survivor of gun violence, and also a mother, I just want to give a shout out to all the members of the Community Advisory Committee, because none of this work would have been completed. And this is this is just one of the meetings that we've done, but all of us collectively went to every single ward. We know that Aurora has over 365,000 residents, and we made sure that we listen to every Aurora resident as possible. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for your commitment to making sure we all feel safe and welcome in the communities that we live, work, and play in. And with that, I'd like to start with Chief Acevedo. If you could give us a brief introduction and tell us why this work is important to you.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I want to say thank you for everyone that's here today. And I don't know if we mentioned that Mayor Kaufman is here now. I don't know if you were, well, we called you out, but our mayor's here. I want to give him my hand. Thank you. This work is really incredibly important to me, not just as a police chief, not just a police chief that considers myself a community leader first and a community member first, who happens to be a police chief, who's always said, I run towards activists, not from them. I see KDot and Mike over here, who's some of our auditors, and I want to thank them for actually starting to commend our officers when they see the good work and calling us out when we fall short. I really appreciate that. But it's important because trust is key to community safety and public safety. And trust is something that we have to earn each and every day. And I know that what happens in Aurora as a police chief that was in Austin and Houston and Miami and the California Patrol in South LA, what happens in Aurora impacts the entire profession, impacts the entire nation. And so when I was called by Jason Batchelor over here and Pete Schulte, the city attorney's office, and I've been watching this community, it's a great community, and I want us to become an example of what can be achieved when we're all in. When the community's all in, when the police department's all in, when the fire department's all in, I've got a great partner here with me, when the city's all in, and because I think we're gonna set the tone, and I think the example for the rest of the nation. So we're all in, and honored to be here.
Thank you so much, Chief. We're glad to have you. Next, I'd like to go to Chief Auten. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you for being here. Welcome to Aurora, Colorado.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I think I'm the newest member of this leadership team and of this community as well. My name's Alec Otten, and I come from 27 years in the career fire and EMS service. I started with this community about 6 weeks ago, and so it's been a lot to absorb and to take in, and I've met a lot of people, and I'm happy to see a lot of familiar faces in this room. I think that means that I've been able to make some connections along the way. I am an informed participant in this process. When I came here, the city was under consent decree, and I read that consent decree before I came to this department. And why is it important to me? It's because the work that we're being asked to do in partnership with the community is the work that every fire department should be doing already. And so there is nothing in the consent decree, there is nothing about relationships, trust building, enhancing trust, being part of the community and engaging the community that is intimidating or is anything that's different than what I do as a natural part of my work. So it feels like home. And a lot of the work that I've had the opportunity to start doing with my team, who's also here, around recruitment, around community engagement, around innovating in our protocols and our care for the community all comes very natural. And so it has been important to me for the last 27 years, and it'll continue to be the heart, the basis, the foundation of my work here as I serve this community. So thank you for the opportunity to be with you, and thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself.
Thank you, Chief. Jason, our interim city manager.
Thank you. So my name is Jason Batchelor. I've been with the city about 15 years, first as a budget officer, then finance director, and in the city manager's office now for about the last 8 years, in the interim now for about the last 4 weeks. The reason this work is important is because, as has been noted, it is fundamental to reestablishing trust and legitimacy with the community, and it's the work that we have to do to reestablish that legitimacy and trust with the community. And it's, quite frankly, our public safety is the priority we hear about from the community, and we hear about from our elected leaders and the mayor and council. That it's something that they talk to me frequently about. They want our community to be safe. They want everyone to feel safe in our community. And this consent decree is the roadmap to help us reestablishing that trust in community and getting back on track. So that's the work that's ahead of us, and it's the work that we are engaged in and glad to be doing for our community.
Thank you so much. And I just would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the fact that the fire department came down to the Capitol last week to acknowledge a new lieutenant. Did you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I think that establishes trust.
Sure, and so I wouldn't take any responsibility for it. The team that was in place was part of promoting Kat, who's the first African-American woman promoted to lieutenant in AFR. And that celebration was fantastic and a long time in coming. And so we're excited for her and what she's going to do for our community here. So thank you for acknowledging that.
Yeah. Hopefully we get that new electronic fire engine that Boulder just got, $1.78 million. So with that, I'd like to pass it back to IntegraSure, and Jeff and your team give you all an opportunity to introduce yourselves.
Yeah, so you've heard enough from me. The pastor introduced a little bit of my background. So I'm going to ask JT and Aaron to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about why the consent decree is important from their perspectives as well.
Great, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'll keep it brief because I really want to get to the question parts, but I hearken back to what Omar was talking about growing up in South Central LA, and when he mentioned in Inglewood and the encounters that he had, we've traded stories, and whether it's Aurora, Colorado, Miami, Florida, Chicago, the reality for African American youth is that our encounters with law enforcement oftentimes are less than what they should be. So I'm excited to be a part of this because this allows for the opportunity to provide a blueprint for what can and should be. And I think, you know, also being a chief in my second agency now, we owe it to the officers to provide a blueprint of where American law enforcement needs to go. And they're hungry for that. And having been on both sides, I can see the realities that there's no better time than now, and there's no better place than Aurora, Colorado.
Thank you. Aaron?
Hi, my name is Erin Pelniak. I'm the Deputy Consent Decree Monitor. It has been such an honor and privilege to work here in Aurora, especially very closely with the Community Advisory Council, who has done a tremendous amount of work, obviously shown by this meeting that they're hosting, but really just continuous engagement. They've engaged throughout the monitorship, so we want to make sure that they're thanked and acknowledged for all those efforts. For me, I'll make it very brief because I know people are excited to get to the questions. I want to echo what everyone has said and what the Attorney General said. The consent decree, I believe the consent decree is definitely a roadmap for Aurora to become the national model for public safety system for all across the country. And it is such an honor to be part of the team to help Aurora and with the rest of our team to kind of get to that goal line. So thank you so much for being here.
All right, thank you so much to our panel. You know, again, we are here as we honor with intention in the life of Elijah McClain. This is a very passionate subject, especially for the community in which we all live, work, play, and raise our children. There will be no cards that will be available. We have various members of our Community Advisory Committee. We want to start with questions from you all, from our community. So if there are questions that you all want to bring forth first, please feel free to reach out to one of these members and go ahead and write that question down on a note card. Let us remember that we want to make this a safe space of intentionality, and that we want to respect the diversity of our opinions. We also have a host of questions that are going to be coming through WebEx, through our online portal. And also questions that have already been previously brought to us through the email thread. If there are other questions, there is a QR code in the back of the PowerPoint, and so you're welcome to submit a question through that way as well. So I will wait for a community question, but in the meantime, we'll just kick everything off with a question that we already was produced to us from a member of the community. And that is the use of force and bias in policing are hot button topics. Has the Aurora Police Department implemented training protocols for both? And specifically that's policing and bias? And also what percentage of folks have been trained around bias in the Aurora Police Department and the Fire Department as well? And if not, if they haven't been completed, can you tell us a little bit why?
Yeah, I'll let the chief take the bulk of the question. I can tell you that there has been training all along in these areas. And I think it's important to understand, again, that the policies are being rewritten, that the training is being rewritten. It's not complete yet, so the training hasn't begun yet. I spoke a little bit about the bias training as well, which will be delivered in July. But Chief, do you want to add a little bit to that?
Sure. Like Lana said, we've always had bias training. We've had use of force training, resistance training. But training needs to continue to evolve, right? I mean, the expectations of the public changes, the law changes, the expectations of the court change, and so we need to continue to evolve with it. I'm just going to online training with the Police One on bias training, community relations. It's online. We're talking about more like online training, to be honest with you. But we actually have training coming up in July. We invited you all to have folks participate, the monitor to participate. But at the end of the day, training is great and dandy. But if you have policies and you have training, you also have to have accountability. You have to hold people accountable for following the policy and the training. And I think that that's an area that is evolving with our command staff and our leadership cadre, because we want to create, and I'm not that it exists, but we want to strengthen a culture of respect and a culture that understands that when you follow training, you follow the law, you wrap yourself around it, you are protected and the community is protected. So we are going to continue that effort. And the last thing I want to add to training, hopefully sometime by June, I want to invite you all, I want to invite some of the community members, even some of our folks that are our auditors, to come out and participate in some of our training, go through some scenarios, see how we train, see what the things are that we're teaching our people, so you can see the perspective from the other side of the cop car, right? The other side of the door, the other side of the badge. And I think that's going to be really helpful as well. I've done it before, and it's been wildly successful and popular in other cities.
Did you want to add? Yes.
Sure. I think the most important piece is understanding implicit bias, and I think that that's been touched on in our training processes, but I don't know that it's been part of a comprehensive strategy. And so in the short time that I've been here, I've already met with our diversity, equity, and inclusion group and asked them to focus on developing or working on refining an inclusion plan that does a couple of things, that teaches about multiple cultures that live with us in our community, in our fire stations, and find ways that we can really wrap that into a strategy. The other piece of that is the community-driven piece of development of a strategic plan, which Mr. Batchelor and I have talked about revising in a big way with stakeholders from our community who can help us understand how to include that in our strategy as well. So I know that the training staff is working on things to enhance that. Our DEI work group is working on things to enhance that, and the community is going to help us work on that as part of our community-driven strategic planning process. So I hope that's helpful. Thank you.
Yes, I think that answers the question. As a follow-up to that, one of the things that we've become very aware of within the city of Aurora is the mental health challenges of folks when they're pulled over. And it's great that we have a co-responder model. But can you talk a little bit about your trainings, how your training specifically identifies and work with folks who have unmet need, so the unhoused, those who are struggling with mental health illness, and how are you measuring it? So what is the evaluation tool that you're using, and how is that evaluation tool being used to hold officers either on a fire engine or in a police car accountable?
So just a quick answer to that is one of the pieces of our response model that isn't commonly discussed is our community responder, community paramedicine program. That program is specifically focused on some of the underlying needs, helping connect people with resources that they might not have that tend to generate a 911 call. And so the unhoused is one of those people who are experiencing problems with behavioral health or mental illness that don't have access to care or other resources. But the fire department has a referral process where the line staff who responds to the engines will refer that to our community paramedicine group. And we'll go out and we'll make contact and see if there are things that we can do that can help address the underlying challenge for that member of our community, so that they can have needs met, that they can make connections that can help them with the underlying problem. As far as measurement tools, I think one of the things that I'm passionate about, and my crew would probably throw things at me when they hear it, is how are we measuring that performance? How are we evaluating our outcomes? And that can be difficult to do, particularly when we don't have address points to go to. So our community paramedic does have familiarity with many of the folks that he connects with and cares for. And so right now we can measure outputs and contacts, and then we can evaluate whether or not that member of our community has felt the need to recontact 911 as an access point. That can give us a good indicator of whether or not we were able to meet some of those underlying challenges or help them connect with the right resources. Does that speak to the question that you're asking?
Yes, thank you so much.
Another thing for us when it comes to mental health and mental health response, crisis response, we like to think that we should only have specialists, but unfortunately, a lot of times officers aren't responding to these calls. Officers may encounter these calls. They may be having lunch. It can happen anywhere. So I think we have to be very intentional in terms of having our co-response teams where you can send them on the front end, but that doesn't mean you give a pass to everyone else in the department. If you're wearing this uniform, you need to be well-trained and you need to be competent in terms of handling mental health and people with mental health crisis. I will say, and I don't want to, my brother, the fire chief, I've been at the legislature, actually spent a lot of time with one of my favorite senators, I think he's one of your favorites, the last couple of weeks. And, you know, one of the things I've been talking to the members is, you know, as mental health crisis. And I think that we should really discuss a greater role for the fire services across our country, where maybe they can get additional training in these areas and maybe even be able to do M1 holds. People love a firefighter. People don't usually love a police officer until they actually need us sometimes. So I think that that's a further conversation down the road. The other thing for me is we have an unhoused population that, you know, continues to grow in our region. I'm very proud. This is Heather Morris, our new deputy chief here. I worked with me in Houston, helped me kind of reform a lot of things in that department. But we had a homeless outreach team that was phenomenal. It was a learning site, and we would actually, as a police department, help transition folks off the streets, because it takes time. It takes building relationships. It takes building trust. And when we don't, right now our PAR unit probably is a big part of dealing with that population, but our PAR teams are they have so many things being thrown at them, they don't have the bandwidth. As we build capacity with more hiring now, thank God. Thank you, Attorney General. Thank you, everyone that is going to give us the opportunity to actually hire our own team. I believe that in the next 12 months, we'll be able to build enough capacity in terms of new hires that we will be able to have a dedicated homeless outreach team that will put in the work, the long-term work and you know how we're going to measure success by the number of people the police department helps bring into that pipeline and helps get off of the streets and into supportive housing and eventually to independent living. So I think you'll be seeing that. Hopefully, I'm looking at Chris Jewell, who's been doing a phenomenal job with this. I think in the next 12 months or so, we should have enough officers to actually start the team.
That's exciting. Thank you, Chief. Jason, can you
real quick, just for the audience, just to help understand the resources that we do have. The city does have a co-responder model where we will have a police officer go out with a licensed clinician, and then in addition to that, we also have another model where we will send out a licensed clinician with a paramedic. And so we've had those programs now for a little while. We have 5 co-responder teams. We have 2 what we call mobile responder teams, so those are the paramedics. What we did last year is we actually had our police auditor do an audit of those programs, and they came up with a number of findings and recommendations on things that we needed to improve. And one of the things, Maisha, that they noted was data collection. And so what we've done is a few things to implement the recommendations out of that. We went out and did a request for proposals for a partner to make sure that we could get fully staffed on the clinician side. It's a challenge to get fully staffed on the clinician side. We are now partnering with CU, and they have been great. We are now fully staffed on licensed clinicians for both the co-responder model and the mobile response team, the paramedic response. So that's been great to see that partnership come along there. And then one of the other recommendations that came out of that audit was that we also hire somebody to be a data analyst, to get exactly to that point, to be looking at trends, to be looking at those responses. So we're in process of hiring that person, bringing them on. And then the final one I'll highlight is it all starts with that call to 911. And so that's one of the audit recommendations, was that we look at how do we identify those calls coming in to get the right resource to that person in crisis. And as the chief said, in a mental health crisis. So how do we get the right resource at the right time to them? So we're looking at our dispatch protocols, we're looking at the different resources, we're looking at how do we take advantage of the new national mental health crisis lines so that we can, again, get the right resource to the person in crisis. So that's just information and background.
Extremely helpful. Thank you, Jason, for adding that. And I'm sure there's some mental health providers that probably want to know how they could take an opportunity to be a partner with you on it as well, who are probably in this room or listening online. This next question goes to Chief Acevedo. You're in the hot seat tonight.
So I'm used to it, thank you.
This is a question from the audience, and it says, to protect the great officers, Chief, will you commit to creating a policy on protecting whistleblowers? And what are the avenues that you will take forth to make sure that they are protected?
Well, first of all, I am a whistleblower. I've been a whistleblower twice in my career, once with the California Highway Patrol. It came at a great price, 4 years of being retaliated against, 14 days of hearings, whistleblower hearings, and I prevailed after 14 days of hearings. So it's personal for me. I believe that whistleblowers should absolutely be, number one, protected. I think they're protected by state law, they're protected by federal law, they're protected by city policy. And I can just be real clear, I will have zero tolerance for any retaliation as it relates to retaliating for anyone blowing the whistle. You know, you think about the thin blue line. I actually had a disciplinary hearing not too long ago where a young officer did the right thing and reported a supervisor. And that supervisor basically retaliated against that individual. And I can just tell you right now that that individual could kind of survive that day, but a person that does that while I'm the chief of police will not survive. You will be terminated. We are actually going to put together a disciplinary matrix, which is kind of like a bail schedule. I think it's important, right? People need to know, here are the rules, here are the expectations, and here's what you can expect. And when it comes to retaliation for a whistleblower, for protected activity, the retaliation, zero tolerance will more than likely end up being termination on that, especially if you're in a supervisor or management role. So hope that answers the question, because I have, again, if you want to see any of my hearings, my hearing report, I have it. It's a public document I can send to you.
Thank you so much, Chief. This next question goes to our
Hot
acting
tub would be
city
more
attorney,
fun, wouldn't it?
Our city manager. Interim.
You just made the city attorney very nervous behind you when you said that.
Come to the panel. Jason, with city council members actively speaking against the consent decree and need for it, how do we ensure that they don't derail the work that the fire department and the rural police department wants to do? And I'll let you start with that question, but both chiefs, you're welcome to take a shot at this as well.
Well, can I start with that one? Could I, Jason?
Well, I'd like for
You want
Jason to
Jason?
start
Okay.
first, yes.
So I think, I've not heard council members speak out against it. I've heard them ask concerns about what are the impacts of it, and then when I'm able to explain to them that this is a roadmap and then what it means for us, I've had nothing but acceptance from them in terms of knowing that the good that it's going to do for us. So I have heard concerns from them. Then once I'm able to explain what it actually is, I've not had pushback from council when I've had those discussions. So beyond that, I would say that this is a legally binding decree at this point. We've entered into this. It's in a court. There are mechanisms that will ensure that we're compliant, and I think our goal and our challenge is to make sure that we are fully compliant in the timelines that are laid out in that, and that's what we're going to do.
Thank you.
And you know, I think, again, I was going to say ditto. I thought you were going to call down, but you just got here. I think the only guy that's bringing less than I have is Alex. Alec, you don't know sometimes what is a consent decree. It's something we've never experienced as a city. And I think that lack of clear understanding probably led to well, we're not sure we want this, right? It's kind of like medicine. You don't know what it's for, you don't know what the symptoms are, and you don't know what it's going to treat. I can just tell you, I've been here for 5 months. I have a reputation of being a reformer, and across, without exception, every one of those seats back there, from the mayor to if there's any sides of the aisle, both sides of the aisle, there is a singular focus on achieving success as it relates to the consent decree. And I think the more they understand that tool, the greater the support. And I think that we're all rowing in the same direction, which makes our lives a lot easier as leaders.
Thank you. I would just offer that in the short time that I've been here, I've not heard any resistance to it from staff or city elected leadership. And I'm not sure what happened before I came related to that, but I feel very supported in our efforts, and I think it's easy to articulate why this is a great tool, and I'll take any opportunity that connects me with the community that I'm charged to care for. And so I have not seen or experienced that as a barrier.
That's awesome. I think the community has heard that we have access to everyone's cell phone numbers tonight. You like that, Jeff? Okay. So anyway, the next question. The next question is, can you please give us an overview of the anti-bias DEI training for APD and AFD? Is it required for everyone in the department, including civilian employees? And what specifically have you learned after you completed the training?
So,
okay, go ahead.
no, thank you for the question. I think that's great. I am aware that we have a training program. It is not a training program that I have been through yet. I have spent a lot of time building those programs. The Building a Better Team program that I released in my previous role was about multicultural training and training on implicit bias. It was about understanding unconscious and implicit bias and how to not allow any kind of implicit bias to make its way into your management or care for a community. And so as I mentioned before, I've had conversations with our DEI work group, getting them activated to be able to participate more in developing training and a strategy for sharing with our workforce. I do know that we have that training, but I couldn't give you the details of it, and I would offer, if you're okay with it, Mark, your training.
Chief, when do you plan to go through training?
When do I plan to go through training?
Yeah, when is your planning date?
That's a great question. As I said before, I developed the training for our previous work. I was a contributor to the development of the fair and impartial.
What date?
Oh.
Is it this month? Is it next month?
This month? It is? All right. This month is my commitment to you. Thank you.
All right.
Well, first of all, I'm going through training right now. I don't know the Police One training. We're also in July, have the training that you're all going through. And the DEI, to me, it's not about training. It's about mindset, and it's about action. It's about actually practicing what you're learning. I've been a champion for diversity and inclusion my entire career, and that's going to be part of our organizational philosophy, fairness, right? Everybody wants to sit at the table, and everyone wants to be able to have the opportunity. Having said that, we'll do our training in July that I'm making all the executive team and the command staff go through together. And yes, you should go through the training whether you're sworn or non-sworn. One of the biggest mistakes police departments make is they don't invest in enough training for their professional staff. And quite honestly, if the person has the wrong heart or the wrong mindset or doesn't understand their own biases, they may send you to 30-hour extensions because they don't want to help you. So in our department, they just found out right now that we're going to be doing it for everybody. We might have already been doing it, but I doubt it because most departments don't. It's really important training. But it starts with admitting that the one condition that is 100% guaranteed to every human being, regardless of nation and origin, regardless of anything, we all have biases. It's just we're in imperfect condition. So yeah, that's where we're at.
That's great. So thank you for the details from both of you all. I know you're in the hot seat. But is there a date that you all have decided for both of your staffs, for the police department and also for the fire department, that all training must be completed by this date to be in compliance with the consent decree? I'm a nurse practitioner, and I know that I can't step my foot back into a hospital if I don't complete my trainings.
That's true.
And so, have you all been talking about that? And then what is the date that you've determined for your departments to say that you're serious about this, because this is something the community is important?
Thank you.
It's important to the
Appreciate it.
community.
For us, we want to get it all done this calendar year. But we want to make sure that the training is valuable, training that adds value to the organization, and training that's effective. And sometimes we think we know best. That's why we're inviting you all and other folks to the training in July, and we're hopeful that I want to make sure it's the right training. So until we're all comfortable with the quality of the training, the content, and think that's what we want as a community, then our goal will be to get the entire department through before the end of this calendar year on the training.
So I'm
And
told
I'd
by
like
our
to invite you too, Chief.
I'm told by our training staff that we'll be done by the end of this calendar year, but we're never done. As we are constantly recruiting, constantly turning over. We have a retirement and attrition rate of about 20 people a year, and we recruit about 20 people a year to fill those positions. So this is an ongoing, this is a living thing, and it's a continuous part of our strategy for training our personnel.
Okay. So we have another question that's just come in, and it is, have there been an increase or a reduction in reported police abuse complaints?
You know what, so that's a great question. Because most of we were just discussing this, the monitor and our team. Right now, the very, very, very vast majority of complaints, just I would say 90, I don't know the percentage, but it's very high, are internal. It's conduct that we are calling out. It's conduct that we are finding, and it's conduct that we are initiating the complaints. And so the question is that we were asking: is it easy enough? Is it hard to file a complaint in our department? Is it easy? Is it hard? And I'm hopeful that it is a good indication that we're headed in the right direction. That people see on the news. I mean, the Sentinel just did a report on us that was actually a positive report. We're very happy about that. But at the end of the day, what's really important for the community to know, you are our eyes and ears. You are the eyes and ears of this community, of this police department. If you don't complain, if we're not doing it right, then those bad officers win. And I think community trust loses. So just let us know if we're not doing it right. By the way, also, we're doing a good job. Report the good job as well.
Just one thing, we will be taking a deep dive this reporting period into the disciplinary process, into the complaint process, and making sure that complaints that are coming in from the public are properly addressed within the department. It's one of the reasons that I stress the need to reach out to the monitor to essentially duplicate the filing, if you will, of any complaint that is out there or any complaint that you've heard about. We want to be able to follow up and make sure that that complaint is being addressed appropriately, as I know the police department does as well.
If I could just say one thing, I know that question wasn't for our agency, but one of the things that I think Chief Acevedo and I have really been active in is management by walking around. I think both of us recognize that that there are folks in our community who either don't know what that complaint process looks like or aren't comfortable moving through that process. And so being present in the community at board meetings and making connections and being accessible, I think, is very important and an important way to have collateral lines of circulation that help us understand where there are areas for improvement. I know that's been a priority for both of us as well.
Thank you so much, Chief. This next question goes to our city manager, interim city manager, Jason. Folks want to know a little bit more about bias training and DEI training that's occurring within the city and the municipality, and also within our city council members. Can you tell us a little bit about your process and if you've also went through training and your staff and other members of city council and a rural municipality?
So yes, so the city has an Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and so they have conducted training for the senior leadership team, and we've been through that training. It's probably been a year ago, 18 months ago at this point for me, so it's been a while. Probably due for a refresher, as Chief Otten noted. It's something that's constant. One of the approaches they took, and I think you heard the Chief reference this, is it's a small office, and so one of the things they've done is they've identified what they call a champions model, where and it's a very large city, so they're working with the departments to identify champions in each of the departments and then give them the resources and ability to sort of conduct that training in their department and sort of make that training appropriate for each of those departments. And so that's something that's been going on. I think you heard Chief Otten talk about it. Our AFR has a very strong DEI champions in their department. And so that's how we've conducted that. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much. Getting a lot of questions, just got 4 right now, actually relating to how does community engage with your offices? Is it a process in which we have to wait and see something on TV, or we have to, actively pursue information and invites? Or within each of your departments, are you actively reaching into community leaders? You talked just very briefly about community champions, even within your own department. How do you reach out to communities? How do you respond when folks are reaching out to you and saying, I was abused, or I was threatened, or I felt uncomfortable with an officer, or a city employee, or a firefighter, or a paramedic? How do you respond to that? And how does community tap into that opportunity to lend their voice and also be a part of the process to solve solutions?
Well, for me, it's, first of all, I think the work is done on the street. So, I'm most effective when I'm out of my office and out in the community, working with the officers, going on patrol, seeing with my own eyes, hearing from folks what's going on, opening the door to our critics, our supporters, whoever wants to come and visit. My email is very public, and I'm very crazy about responding to email most of the time. And I will just tell you that there is not a single email that I get that I will not respond to. Personally follow up. If you ever get anything from my office with my name on it and it's not my signature, a real signature, not a stamp, then that is not from me. I do not believe in that. I look at all correspondence with my name on it. I sign it myself. And but I will just say this: this is the smallest city I've served in, but it's a very busy city. I would just ask if for some reason I drop the ball and I'll get back to you. I guarantee you it was not intentional. We're all human beings. Pester me. It's okay. That's what I get paid for, right? Do not hesitate to, if you didn't get the answer, to call back, to write back, hold our feet to the fire. But it's very important. And again, the work is done with our community partners. The work is done out on the streets. And quite honestly, the most important work is with youth. I'm excited now this summer that we're going to be working a lot with young people in our community. And I'm really hopeful that we'll be able to build a lot of trust. If you want me somewhere, all you got to do is let me know, and I'll be there. And if I can't be there, Chief Morris will be there, Chief Jules, our officers. We want to be communicating with the community outside of the 911 call loop, where that's not the time. That's the time to build trust by doing the right thing, but it doesn't give us the time to spend the quality time. So when you need us, just ask. And for the people online, my email's Acevedo, ACE, V as in Victor, EDO, at auroragov.org.
I think we have a challenge in the room. We now have your email and your phone number.
Yes, I give it to everybody.
So this is a reason that I like working with Art, because I think philosophically, we're the same way. The management by walking around, the multiple lines of communication. The fire chief email is very public. My email is augton, O-U-G-H-T-O-N, @auroragov.org. And people should feel free to reach out to that, reach out to the main telephone number with the fire department, or the fire chief email. We have community engagement specialists. We're present on pretty much every social media platform for messaging, as well as being present at board meetings and events in the community. So if we're missing, which it's always possible that we're missing an avenue, I hope someone will let us know how we can be more accessible than we are, because that's the goal.
Thank you so much. And so as it relates to, just as a follow-up, is there an actual platform for discipline? So, once the consent decree committee leaves and the monitor kind of goes away, in that time that it still is here, and then after that, where do folks actually go to file a complaint?
Well, they can go on our website, they can go to the police department's website, and they can file a complaint or accommodation. They can go to any station, they can call any of our facilities, and the expectation is that that individual, whoever answers, asks for a supervisor, they should take the complaint. The best place though, truly, is on the website, at a station, or internal affairs. You can call internal affairs directly, or quite honestly, I just give you my email, or you can send me the complaint as well.
And Chief, are all officers required to give their card out?
That is actually state law, which is something I was handing out cards, so I'm running out of cards, so I'm gonna have to write them in, I think, because the printing isn't the quickest in the world. So that's required by state law when we're out in the field, is to handle. We're just having that conversation, right? Chris? So yes, they are supposed to give out cards. Look, and quite honestly, we work for the people, and the sooner that we understand
more on that in a minute,
we work for the people. I mean, I'm employed by the city. I'm employed by the city manager, but I always say we all work for the people. And so when someone asks you for a card, especially out of an enforcement contact, you're required to hand them that card.
Thank
you. Did you want to add anything to that?
You let anybody in our department know if you've got an issue, and if you don't get any kind of response from them, you have my email, and I hope you reach out.
Awesome. And then another question we just got from the community here in the audience is, how are you guys, we have over 100, no, it's up to 222 different languages in Aurora. So how are you dealing with the complexity, but also the diversity and just the beauty of having just this metropolis of so many people from around the world? And how do you make sure that you can communicate to everyone in a language that is first to them?
That is such a tough subject to tackle. I smile because it's something that I believe is in fact, I called this community when I came here just beautifully diverse. And I've heard over 150 languages, now I've heard over 200, and I know it's a challenge to connect. We do have translation services, but typically, and I just remember hearing it today, that we've translated this document into Spanish, and so it's one of the, so we got 199 to go, and it is a challenge. And so we do have language line services. I had a chance to sit in Aurora 911 Center and listen to them use those resources as they took calls from the community. We've got a lot of work to do there, but just today I was talking to our fleet manager about how it is we make that more proactive as opposed to reactive, inviting people. We have several members of our organization, I know Chief Acevedo does as well, who are multilingual. The challenge is letting people in our community know that that officer or that firefighter is multilingual. And so we're exploring things like a language placarding system that could go on our apparatus that would tell people that there was a multilingual and what language that member of our organization spoke. It's imperfect and it's incomplete, but it's definitely a work in progress and something that AFR is paying attention to. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
You want me to add anything to that?
Yes.
English is my second language. and thanks to my public educators, I can't shut up because I love this language. We want to actually incentivize somehow, I think the decree kind of speaks to, incentivize our bilingual officers. They don't get anything. And quite honestly, they're working hard in this city with so many languages, especially the Spanish speakers. So we want to, if we can't find the funding, maybe when it comes to transfers, and there's like the CHP, I grew up as an officer throughout the state. If they, at the state of California by law, a 5% contact rate, if you have a 5% rate of contact with the language, you're required to provide, under state law, services. Well, the CHP actually has 2.5. By policy, we just adopted 2.5%. So it's really important because communication is everything, to include American Sign Language. Because I can tell you, I've seen instances where people that are hearing impaired from that community do not get treated the way they need to be treated. And so we're committed to that. We want to incentivize it. And I do believe, I can tell you firsthand, I was at a scene working patrol where there was about 20 Spanish speakers that were victims of these crazy men that were beating them with bottles and everything else. I was the only Spanish speaker, and I got upset because my officer was doing such a good job. I thought I was going to be the hero. But they were actually getting the translation, so it's at least in Spanish was very effective. So I was very pleased to see that they were able to actually get it done.
Thank you so much. I'm going to shift this back over to IntegraSure. We have a question for you all. A lot of people are concerned that, when you all leave, what becomes the bottom for response. And so as the monitor of APD, AFR, and civil services, and unfortunately we haven't been able to talk very much about Civil Service Commission, but their progress or lack of progress in the consent decree directives, how are citizens of Aurora going to be assured that what you're reporting is accurate, and that if there are possible consequences, that those remedies and solutions will be followed through after the 2-year mark?
So in terms of the assurance, there was a process that was gone through in terms of selection of IntegraSure. Assurance is in the name, but that wasn't why we were selected. We were selected because we had a reputation for integrity and a reputation for expertise in this particular field. We were selected by the Attorney General and the city. We are going to do everything that we can to make sure that the terms of the consent decree are carried out. We will report that publicly. To the extent that they're not, we will be looking for remedies from the court or from the parties. The most likely remedy is extension of the consent decree. For those things that aren't completed at year 5, we go to a year 6. And if they're not completed in year 6, we go to a year 7. It's my hope that we complete everything certainly by year 5. We want to get out of here. We're not.
Do you want to leave Aurora?
We're not getting any younger. I'm not getting any younger.
All American citizens.
But we want to leave it when it's the model.
When you're ready.
When it's the model. And we have to work with the city to make sure that there are things in place that take what we were doing and bring them to the city as a permanent fixture. We need to make sure that there is a police auditor on board who is going to carry out some of the work that we're doing. I meant to say police monitor. There is a police auditor on board. That they will be working together to carry on the work that we have started here, that there will be a program of auditing that is regular. So it's very important to us that these functions are put into place and that they will carry on after we leave.
Thank you. Follow up.
I was just going to echo what Jeff had said, which is the consent decree really is intended to, be, to build systems of accountability and systems of transparency so that it lives on beyond, everybody up here today. So that's really the intent, is that as we reestablish trust, reestablish legitimacy, we're building systems that live on beyond all of us and continue to provide that level of transparency and accountability to the community.
Can I add something really quickly? When you file a complaint and it leads to formal discipline, first of all, you should know the outcome of that complaint. And we want to build transparency. We're in the process of building a transparency portal to be able to put policies out. It's just everything. I mean, data belongs to the public, including our disciplinary memos. That really helps build trust, and I think that transparency piece. Remember that just if it's a public document and it's related to discipline, why should the public have to wait to put in a public records request or whatever core or whatever we call it here, when we should just simply, as public, go to this, and civil service may be a really good place to have it as well, where you put all, hey, what happened with that guy that, we saw doing something really inappropriate. We know he got disciplined, or she, we don't know what it was. Well, that memo should be at the civil service website where you can just go and get it. Quite honestly, because we don't have that, but it's coming. And I think City Manager Batchelor just talked to us just yesterday. We think we found a solution. And I think the community is very pleased with the transparency that's coming on those issues.
Awesome. Last question of the night. And this goes to our fire chief and to the police chief as well. We know that through this consent decree process, Elijah McClain was eventually murdered because he was overdosed by ketamine. What has been the replacement drug that the fire department is now using as its tool on its tool belt to sedate and to minimize harm to patients and those that you interact with in the world?
Thank you. So we use a drug called droperidol, and it is, my understanding is that it has less of a neurological effect that interacts with some other toxins that could be in someone's bloodstream. The other piece of that is that our review of use of that sedative is comprehensively reviewed by IntegraSure, by our team, and by the monitors team. So I think those things will be are substantial changes and will help us manage those calls better and monitor those calls better.
And so of all officers within the Rural Police Department and the Fire Department being trained on this new drug, its adverse effects, and is that a part of your training in addition to DEI?
All of our staff has that is able to use it, our paramedic corps. Yes.
We don't administer drugs other than Narcan, and so I think that the most important piece is the police department's role. We're there first, and when you look at the videos of Elijah McClain and our officer, I think, missed clues that they needed to approach that situation much differently and speak a lot differently. When that young man says, "Hey, I like you guys, I'm shy," I mean, it just pierces your heart. And I think the training that we're doing in de-escalation and recognizing individuals that you need to approach differently, so we never have to call a fire department, so we can keep the situation calm, so we can de-escalate, is the most important part. Because no matter what drug you're using, no drug is 100% guaranteed. You just never know. So the better job we can do to de-escalate, to calm things down, then they can be used to go to heart attacks and other places where they're needed with their resources. So we have to do better. I think we are doing better. And are we going to get the chance to do a closing before we leave? That was the last question. Is there something I really want to say to the community? Okay, I guess this is a closing. One of the things, I think that this department's a great department, but I think it's a department kind of like LAPD before you ever went there, before Bill Bratton came there. We stopped looking outward, and we think we have all the answers here. And what you find out is no one else has all the answers. And if we're not a learning organization, we end up going down, not up. And I want this community to know that we're doing business differently from internal affairs in terms of the way we approach. We're no longer waiting to see what happens with the criminal case, where the burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt, right? We are taking immediate, concurrent action when an incident happens, with a shooting, a use of force, because my burden of proof is a preponderance of the evidence, which is 50% plus one. I really don't care what the DA does. That's the DA's. I can't control the DA. I can't control the AG, but I can control our department. And because we've changed it, we've had, in 5 months I've been here now, 3 cases that no criminal charges. One case they did file criminal charges. 2 of them, they waited. One of them they waited, and another one, we're moving forward. Because what happens is if you wait for the criminal charges, it might be a year, it might be 2 years, it might be 3 years, and the community does not get resolution. We are moving forward. The use of force involving former Officer Haroon, he's no longer a member of this department because the day before he was supposed to come in internal affairs, he resigned. In the fast processes, he'd still be a member of this department. So if you don't think that we are going to do the right thing, you'll never know unless you let us know when we're not doing the right thing and give us an opportunity to do it right. And to the officers that may be listening, because I guarantee someone watching, if you do the right thing, we're going to support you. We're going to support you. It doesn't matter what people think. It's what the evidence shows and it's what the facts are. And I know that the majority of them are doing the right thing, just like the members of the community know that the vast majority are doing the right thing. So thank you to the volunteers. Thank you to my brother from the NAACP and your board. I'm getting paid to do this. The good Lord up ahead, up above, Pastor, is helping you all. But thank you all for being our partners. Because without the community partnership, we just can't be effective. So thank you for having us as mayor. Thank you for being here with us tonight.
And I would be remiss if we didn't recognize Mayor Kaufman. Thank you for all that you're doing on this issue and being present. So I'll pass it and we can just do closing remarks from everyone on our panel. Brief closing remarks. The time is fine.
I just would like to reiterate, Aurora has a rare opportunity at this juncture in American policing to be the model for agencies across the country. And agencies, including my own, we're looking at it. And the progress and the engagement should be replicated. And thanks for allowing me to be a part of this.
First of all, thanks to CAC and all of you who are here, both in person and via the web. I echo what the chief and what JT have said. I think history will look back on this period of time as a time where we were given the opportunity through the consent decree process to really make Aurora all that it can and should be, which, as JT has said, is the model for the rest of the country. So,
not the time to speak up.
I have every expectation that will come to pass, and I just want to reiterate for those who understandably are impatient and want to see the change entirely yesterday. I get it, but it is a process. It is a marathon. Keep thinking of that slide. Year 1 out of 5, we're on our way and we're running hard.
So thank you for the opportunity and for the questions. I would offer that the consent decree is a critical document for the success of this agency.
I don't get a chance to speak, Terry.
But
Just
I
let
would
you guys
commit
know,
personally
this
to
isn't
so much more.
speaking
I think
engagement.
there are
This is just a
plenty of
listening
areas where we
engagement.
can build trust and connection with the community that we're charged to care for. So in a lot of ways, it's a starting point. But I think there's a lot more that we can do as a department to connect with our community and to hear our neighbors and the folks that we care for. So I would look for not just compliance with the consent decree from our organization, but more than that, going beyond that. So thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight, and thank you for the questions.
Thank you everyone for being here tonight, both here and at
I
home.
hear you guys, I just can't, I'm not able to speak.
And I would just
tonight.
ask
It's
you
not
to
a
continue to
speaking-
work with us, help
speaking
us to improve
engagement.
these departments. We're committed to that improvement, we're committed to the change, and just continue to work with us as we get
They
better
are not
over the
Howard
coming
County,
years.
this is a consent decree meeting, and all questions
So I
are
think
supposed to
I'll
be
end it
on
with, for us, we
paper.
understand this is a fluid evolving process, and for the monitoring team, if you want to let us know how we can better engage with this beautifully diverse city, and how to raise awareness of the work that's being done with the monitorship and better engage with the community going forward, please. We do mean it, we want to hear from all of you, so we look forward to hearing from more of you as the monitorship progresses. So we want to thank the Community Advisory Council for making this happen tonight. Thank you for the moderator for making this run so smoothly. And I know that Ron's going to touch upon it, but for any of the questions that weren't answered tonight, they'll be collected by the Community Advisory Council. The monitor will publish all questions and answers on our website by next Tuesday. And so they'll be available for the rest of the community members who want to hear the answers to their questions. Thank you.
On behalf of the Community Advisory Council, thank you for being here this evening. I would ask us all if we could just take a collective breath. A lot of information tonight, both technical and adaptive, and if you could just take a collective breath with me so we can center some humanity in this space. Thank you. We have heard a lot of technical and adaptive, the what, the how, but I really want to recenter us back in the why. And I think the why was really beautifully illustrated by the spirit of Elijah McClain earlier this evening. Our why is, in my opinion, and the opinion I think of our Community Advisory Council, really rooted in hope, right? In hope and being able to make sure that we understand humanity. This is about people. It's about community. So at the end of the day, we thank you. We thank all of our panelists. Maybe our chiefs need another collective breath, maybe after this. Thank you so much for leaning into space and for your accessibility, because this matters. As a Community Advisory Council, please know all online community and the community that is here in person, we are here, we're available. Our job is to be ambassadors to elevate and amplify your voice in this process, and to be able to make sure that we are part of the accountability measure and the conduit to make sure that we can communicate what is happening throughout our communities and with the humanity and the people within our communities. One piece that we do want to offer, we have listening sessions that we're offering through the Community Advisory Council. If you have any community organizations or any groups that you would like for our CAC to visit and have this interaction with, please reach out to us either on an index card or find a CAC member. We would love to come see you. In fact, on May 11th at 6:30, our Northwest Aurora group at Moorhead Recreation Center will be holding a listening session. So that's an example of how you can engage in this work. We also have our next ward meeting on that same night, Ward 4. And in the back of your packet, I know it's been mentioned a couple times, you can access auroramonitor.org here, and all of our information is there as we move forward. All of the questions that were answered will be answered, what are we thinking, on the website by next Tuesday. Again, we thank you for being here. We will be around just to answer any questions afterwards. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, community, and have a great evening. Safe travels.
I want to show you guys something. This piece of paper right here was me crunching this as we went through this egregious meeting. So I saw everything in chat. I understand the frustration. It's frustrating for us, but it's important that we're here. It's important that we get the information. It's important that we see these people. And now we're getting up and going and doing something. Now, hang tight because we're going to have commentary after. What are we doing, KDot? Can we just get out of here and talk? Yeah. Okay. Because I don't feel the need to talk to any of these people unless you want to fucking talk to the mayor and tell him what a piece of shit he is. Oh, he took off. Mayor took off. He was like, fuck this, I'm out. Okay, we're gonna get out of this. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Okay, let's take off here, and we're going out, sweetheart. I don't feel the need to talk to any of these people. And if you want to hang out and talk, I'm gonna brief everybody. All right. Let me get out of this, guys, and then I will speak with you. I promise. The mayor absolutely ran out of here because he knew KDot was going to give him an ass whipping, or an ass chewing, I should say, not ass whipping because we're not violent, anything of that nature. So let's get out here. We're going to wait for KDot. Okay. Let's go over here, actually. Okay, you guys aren't probably going to be able to see me. There's the mayor. He cowered out of there because he knew KDOT was going to give him the business. Okay, let me turn this camera around. Maybe you can see me, maybe you can't. I don't know. Sorry, guys. So much to unpack. For those just joining or joined late, this was a consent decree meeting. I was frankly fairly uncomfortable because you guys know me. I like to ask questions. I like to engage, and this isn't the meeting for that. So this kind of setting really isn't for me, but it was important that KDOT and I were here to hear the bullshit, because 90% of what you heard was BS. I heard you guys' questions. I got as many in as I possibly could, and very snarkily, I might add. So if you guys check out the IntegraSure website in about a week, you'll see the answers to some of those questions that you guys put in chat. Like Ellie, I think you asked the question about what has actually changed since last year. I can tell you guys that right now. I'm curious to see what they say, but I have to have my head on a swivel because there's police around here, and you never know what's going to go on in these stupid meetings. But the only thing that has changed, to be honest with you, I'm always honest with you guys, the only thing that has changed from the consent decree since it's been initiated is the use of ketamine. You guys heard about the use of ketamine. That was a special instance where Elijah McClain, if you guys don't know the story of Elijah McClain, you really should look at the details. It's horrific. The chief spoke a little bit about it. I am aware of the chief's history too, by the way. I know Pepper, you were in there. You pointed out the Tuttles. Acevedo was in Houston, and he was ran out of Houston because of that. But I actually think, KDOT and I have met with this chief, and we're a good judge of people in general. But this guy is not nearly as bad as most chiefs, I will say. I mean, he did a horrific job in Houston, no doubt, and he wasn't held accountable for it, other than they ran him out, or he got, I don't even know what happened to him, if he got fired or he resigned or whatever. I know the history in Miami. I know what happened there. He actually was trying to do the right thing in Miami and was chastised for it and ran out of town because nobody likes accountability for police. So I am very keenly aware. I know at times, guys, I don't really speak up. I don't say what's on my mind sometimes. Most times I do. So you guys will see me when something is wrong. I call it out for what it is. So during this meeting, there were several instances where I wanted to jump out of my chair. You can ask Bernie. I had that piece of paper that I was showing you, and I was scrunching it in my hands because it made me infuriated at certain points, but maybe that's not the word, but like anxious to want to say something about what was going on in there. These are all a bunch of suits that don't give a fuck. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, and I was telling you, the only thing that changed is they don't administer ketamine anymore, but they replaced it. And if you guys remember from the first consent decree meeting that KDOT and I were at a couple, 3-4 months ago, whenever, it's been a little while, there was a nurse that I wanted to interview. She didn't want to be on camera, and she was very, you know, obstinate with that. But I wanted to talk to her about the other drug that they were using. But what I gathered from what I heard is that the other drug that they're using is almost as bad, if not worse, than the drug that they got rid of, which was ketamine. So the only reason that they got rid of ketamine was because of the huge Elijah McClain case that cost the city of Aurora $15 million, and there's even more litigation going on now, I think. So it was a record for the city of Aurora to pay out that much, but they paid $15 million to the family of Elijah McClain to basically, the biggest change is they don't use ketamine anymore. So, but I will tell you guys that somebody, I think it was Jen, and I really appreciate you saying this in chat, Jen, the only people making a difference here in Aurora, you can talk about the NAACP here in Aurora, you can talk about the fucking lawyers, you can talk about the police, the chiefs, all of them, none of them are making a difference, okay? That's why KDot and I do what we do. We don't make any money doing this, or very little money doing this, because we're all e-beggars, right? I mean, Ellie and Jen know that more than anybody. We're all e-beggars, right? Okay, so the only people that are making actual change in Aurora is KDot and I. And you know how I know that? Because now when we go out into this city here, right, this beautiful city of Aurora, when we pull up, they are now giving their cards willy-nilly to us, whereas before, if you looked at my channel when I first started this channel, you would have noticed a different attitude with these pieces of shit. And yeah, I'm gonna call them out for what they are. All those cops that gave me shit on this channel, or KDot on his channel, in the past year and a half, however long it's been, you guys know who you are, you done fucked up, and now you know who really rules the street of Aurora. It's KDot and myself, all right? And Denver, you're not far behind. You saw today an example of the changes that we're making in Denver as well, because if you saw that cop, Officer Compton, he was an absolute piece of trash to KDot when KDot first encountered him, and when we encountered him today, he was a completely different man. So the only people that, in my view, in the Denver metro area that are actually making change and making people held accountable for what they're doing is KDot and myself. There are a couple of other peripheral auditors here that claim to make change. It's not the fucking case, okay? I'm not going on a rant here. I'm not saying we're the best. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you want people that are actually making change, it's KDot and myself, right? We've made it a mission. And we're at these, who else do you know from the Denver metro area is at a consent decree meeting at 6, 7 o'clock Mountain Time when I could be watching fucking hockey or basketball or any fucking thing, or a movie with Bernie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at Bernie. Look at Bernie, guys. Poor Bernie. Poor Bernie. I love this woman. She's awesome.
And I love you.
Oh, I love you too. I'm not gonna kiss you on camera though, because I don't want that to be used against me.
Oh, he's evil. He kisses his wife.
Well, I mean, you know how people are. So here's the deal, everybody. You guys love that saying, huh? I'm sick and tired of the bullshit, just like you guys are. I'm just as frustrated. When you guys listen to this shit here, I'm with you. Okay, today was not a speaking meeting. This is how these stupid ass consent decree meetings are. But if you guys do have questions, all right, I will get them answered, because we have a direct line into the independent monitor, the chief of Aurora, Acevedo, which we met with before, and is always willing to take our calls. Oddly enough, if you ask all the previous chiefs, they're all pieces of shit. I hope they're fucking rotting in Florida or wherever the fuck they're going, especially Chief Oates. You're a piece of shit. You threatened KDOT, and I got that on camera. And you should be in fucking jail for making a threat to a private citizen as a police officer, somebody that's supposedly in a position of power, whatever. So, but it seems like this chief is actually listening. I know his past. Pepper, I agree with you 100% if you're still in chat. Sorry, I'm getting glare. I can't quite see everybody's comments, but I'll try to Well, then nobody can see my beautiful face,
Oh,
Bernie.
well, I was trying to help you with the glare.
I know.
It
So
is pretty beautiful, though.
stop it. I have to shave. I noticed myself on camera, guys. I gotta shave. So I heard you guys. I saw the comments. I hope you guys understand that I'm with you. Any questions, send them to my email, mexicanlonghair@gmail.com, and I will make sure that they answer those questions, because the question that Ellie wanted me to ask, I put on a piece of paper and they didn't ask it. So, and I showed you guys that question when I, held up the papers here, because I want you guys to know as well. What am I looking at, Bernie? I'm doing a live here. What are you doing?
I was flashing you.
She was flashing me.
With
She
Britney
wasn't
Spears
flashing me.
boobs.
This isn't hot tub, Bernie. So, the takeaways here are very little, guys and gals, as far as like knowing what changed. I mean, I've already told you the change that's been made. It hasn't been made by anybody but the family of Elijah McClain, which won a $15 million judgment, which forced them to stop using fucking ketamine. So now, when one of these firemen or EMTs administer the new drug and somebody else dies, then there'll be a whole new lawsuit, and then we're back to square one, which, we're still at right now. So, with that, I'm sorry if I didn't get a lot of your comments. I couldn't really talk to you guys. I couldn't say anything, which really fucking bothers me. I hate it. And I can't really see your comments now, but I know you guys are typing in there, and I appreciate each and every one of you for being with me here on this stupid journey of listening to stupid shit like this, so we can, maybe make change in a different way, I think is the best way to do it, because somebody put it to me best. I think it was Joe Cool. I don't know if Joe is still in chat, but with the consent decree in Chicago, it was all lip service, just like it was in New York and LA and everywhere that these stupid consent decrees pop up. It's always to placate the public, right? It's always to make the public feel a little bit better about their police force and kind of placate people. Well, I'm here to tell you guys, 100%, KDot and I can't be placated. The only way that we can be placated is by putting a bullet in our head or our chest. And that's just the way that it is. We don't do anything illegal. We don't antagonize. I know, let me address Blue Unicorn. I don't know if Blue Unicorn's still in chat. Blue Unicorn, I hear you. Okay, I understand. I'm not with a lot of the normal auditors that you see out there. You mentioned a couple. I'm not going to mention any names. But I disagree with them as well. And I think your points were very valid. I think Jen was also correct in telling you it wasn't the place at this moment. I'm not a government official, so if you're airing your grievances to me, well, I will listen. I always listen, but I am not a government official, so it's not on deaf ears. Trust me, I'm listening and I'm with you 100%. All right, I agreed with about 90-95% of what you said, Blue Unicorn. But I just couldn't respond because it was a quiet environment. I was trying to listen so that I could glean what I could from the meeting, and also give you guys a good assessment of the way that I felt after the fact. And I'm telling you guys straight from my heart, I thought it was all a bunch of bullshit. All right, I'm halfway through the meeting. That's why when I put up my little picture to you guys of my writing, telling you guys that is anybody else falling asleep, because they basically were just using a lot of fucking talking points that I've heard 50 million times over, and it's all fucking lip service. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm with you guys. I understand. I'm just as frustrated. I'm maybe even a little more frustrated after this meeting, because I didn't even get the report card thing that they usually do, which I'm going to have to look on their website to see how much quote-unquote progress that they've made, which the only thing that I think that they've changed from my anecdotal point of view, that's all I can speak on, because I can't speak for every single interaction that's out here, but I'm keenly aware of most of everything that goes on here, whether it's a stabbing, a shooting, a domestic violence, a traffic stop. KDot and I are fucking on it. We can't catch everything, but we catch a good chunk. So we know the hot spots, we know where to go, where there's going to be action. We know, I mean, we have an intimate knowledge of Aurora and Denver, so we we're all over it. So let me look at some comments here. I'm going to turn, it might be a little darker. We all lost IQ points listening to what was said in there. Howard County, thank you. Thank you all actually for being in here, because, whatever bird, it sounds awesome. What kind of bird is it? I don't know. I don't even know where it's at. But I don't know what else to say, guys, other than I'm trying. I know KDot is, KDot's on it. He's, I mean, I'll say it. He's the best. Okay, he's the best in the business. He's the best at doing actual changing things. I know you guys are used to the big time auditors like Long Island and San Joaquin, and more power to those guys. They're making more money than I could never dream of in a lifetime, and I really don't give a shit. I don't make any money, and that's not what this is about. All right, this is about actual fucking change. All right, and I was just telling KDot today, I think during lunch, that once we're done with Aurora, which it seems like the work is never done here, but when we're satisfied that we've made actual progress, I mean, we're gonna go. I mean, we're doing simultaneously things in Denver and other surrounding places. I know somebody mentioned, I think it was Lucky 205, that mentioned Pueblo is another problem area. That's a little bit out of my purview because it's about 2 hours south of Denver. But I do get to Colorado Springs every once in a while. The Denver metro area, like places like Inglewood, which was mentioned. I've been up to Loveland, where they beat the shit out of that old lady. I think her name was Karen Gardner. I think her name was, which there's a lot of problems up in Loveland that I could write a book on, guys. Here in Aurora, it's really, really bad, and that's why we concentrate on it. To me, Aurora is the second, maybe the first worst police force in the entire United States. I know Mesa, Arizona is really terrible. Just like, and Bernie can speak to that because she lived in Phoenix, so she knows.
I lived in Mesa too.
And Mesa, okay.
It was bad.
It's really bad there. It's bad across the country. I know you guys have certain views of different police forces across the country. And maybe one day KDot and I will reach out to different locales. But we're intimately familiar with the laws here in Aurora, Denver, but we would love to get out and do other places as well. Other places are needed. Let's see. What?
I didn't do it.
What, gray hair?
No.
Is that a gray? I got plenty of gray hairs. Look at right here. You guys can't see. It's Pepper. I used to live in North Glen. I understand how their force is. Thornton, KDot and I were just in Thornton. I hope you saw that video. Interesting stuff in Thornton. We're not done with Thornton. Trust me, we're going to get up to Thornton. Salt and pepper, yeah. Yeah, I did earn those grays, Howard County for sure. How dare you, Ellie?
Oh, it's cold.
He gets around. It's not cold. You're
freezing.
Crazy. It's not cold.
I'm freezing.
Bill of Rights, welcome. Denver Hot Tips. Mentioned panel tomorrow. Oh, to talk about today's meeting. We will have a panel tomorrow. I know Ellie is itching to talk about a lot of things, so I'm going to have a panel at some point tomorrow. I will post on the community site when that's going to be. I have to wait for KDOT to get out here. Ashley, thank you. Let's see. It's not cold. It feels good.
It's freezing.
Feels really good. Yeah, Pepper, you saw that video. Okay, cool. Without further ado, guys, I'm gonna try to get back in. I don't know what KDOT's smoozing with all these people. I'm uncomfortable in those type of situations. I don't like them. I don't dress up. I don't, wear suits and ties to these stupid fucking events. I mean, it seems so formal to me. They had little hors d'oeuvres at the beginning, which we already ate lunch, so I didn't need that. I did take a water though. Keeper says nippy, Bernie. Not hot tub keeper, not yet anyways.
Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you for having the meeting. So lots more to come, guys. I'm not done. I'm not finished. I'm on this. I'm on this, and this consent decree is going to go for another 4 years, maybe 5 or 6 more years. But I'm with you guys every step of the way. I try my best to give you guys all the information I can possibly give you. I know I missed some stuff tonight, but trust me, guys. I was like, part of the meeting, I was like zoning out when the police chief was talking and you know, things of that nature. I mean, it's all stuff that we've heard a million times before, right? I mean, it's stuff that I just most of it I just don't get with, you know, because I've been out here on the streets. I know how these police officers are treating other people. I know what's going on out here, so I'm not with all of this shit. So exciting meeting out there, but there was a lot of important information that was here. I will dissect it. We'll dissect it tomorrow with Ellie, along with the other shit that went on today. You know, I don't know what to say other than thank you guys that stood here for the entire thing. If you haven't hit the like button, hit it on the way out. There's more to come, guys. I ain't done. KDot's not done, and we've got a lot of work to do. But we're working hard. Trust me, I'm doing my best, and I know KDot is too. And we're actually affecting change. So thank you guys so much for joining. I really appreciate each and every one of you guys. And until the next panel, which is tomorrow, I don't know what time. I'll let you guys know in the community tab. Be kind to others, be kind to your family, but most importantly, be kind to yourself. And if you're struggling with your mental health, please reach out to somebody that you know, love, and trust. In lieu of that, my email is mexicanlonghair@gmail.com. I'm not a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or a counselor, but I do listen. And I try to pay attention to many people as possible. I've you know, like I said, I'm not a mental health expert, but sometimes just talking to somebody really helps. But in lieu of that, if I don't get back to you in a timely fashion, just remember, somebody out there thinks you're their favorite. Hold on to that thought, because it could save your life. Also, there's a national 3-digit number that you can call here in the United States. It's 988, or you can go to helpfulchat.org. online if you don't want to talk to somebody. You can also message 988, and a professional will get with you. So whatever's in your mind, whatever kind of stress you're going through, just remember, there's always somebody out there that loves you, and there's always these numbers to help you out, and there's always my email. So, and I respond to every email that I've ever gotten in my email, and trust me, there's been plenty, and I will continue to do that. No matter how many subs I get, no matter how many subs KDot gets, I do care about people in general. It's a trait that not everybody has, but you know, more of us should have that trait. But anyways, thank you guys so much for joining. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Hit that like button on the way out. Thank you guys so much. I'm out until tomorrow. Later, everybody.